From the day I was born, I was immersed into the world of faith. My dad was a full-time youth pastor, so naturally, church was my second home that I grew up in. I also attended a private Christian school, from kindergarten through my senior year of high school. I volunteered extensively, evangelized fervently, was always doing Bible study. Heck, I even worked my first job at a Christian bookstore. The only world I knew growing up was one large, clearly defined bubble, and I never ventured outside of that. But despite my upbringing and my many years of being Christian, I struggled with believing in the existence of God, which, as you can tell, is a problem when you're supposed to be a believer. Feeling that God wasn't real just wasn't cutting it for me anymore. So I really tried to overcome these doubts. I started looking into tons of books about apologetics. I scrolled through YouTube videos from different pastors. I just wanted someone to explain to me why God was real. And to be quite honest, I was tired of defending a God who I barely understood myself. So as I continued with my quest, I realized I couldn't just rely on the words of another person to resolve these doubts. This included my church family, even my loved ones, and the prominent pastors and theologians out there. I had to truly know who God was for myself, not just about Him through other people. So though I felt so far away from God at this point, I started to turn to His Word, the Bible, and pray earnestly that God would please reveal Himself to me. I had also decided that I had to relearn the Bible, because to me, it was the only way to have a fresh start from my jaded experiences. And that decision led me to a life-changing Shincheonji Bible study. And I can say with full confidence that this was by God's hand and orchestration alone. So despite all the knowledge I had amassed growing up, this study made me feel like I was learning who God was for the first time in my life. And with this Bible study, the bubble I was born into finally popped. When I was first introduced, I wasn't too sure what to expect. It had definitely been a while since I ventured out of my own church group, so I was both curious and a little nervous. But I can tell you, with my first one-on-one lesson with the Bible study teacher, all my uneasiness melted away. I felt so relieved by how biblically sound everything we went over really was. The content she presented was also so thought-provoking and new to me, but it was all backed by the same scriptures I thought I was already familiar with. And just like that, I saw my faith being reignited with every meeting. It's actually pretty funny. I still remember being asked by her, "What is God's promise?" You know, this was such a fundamental question for a believer, but I didn't know the answer to it. Recognizing this spurred a newfound hunger and determination that pushed me to step beyond the bounds of my own comfort, and I suddenly decided to join the larger group Bible class. This was not an easy choice by any means. Trust me, with being in multiple academic programs, working in a lab, and managing all my coursework to graduate college on time, it was quite difficult to commit to the twice-a-week Bible class. Nonetheless, I knew that the curiosities, the hunger, and my drive in my pursuit for answers would haunt me and leave me with regret in the future if I just gave up now. I can still remember the Bible class like it was yesterday too. The first word that comes to mind when I think about my experience back then is the word challenging. But in a good way, of course. Because if I hadn't been challenged to think deeper about God and His Word, my entire journey of trying to back up my faith with reason would have definitely been a lost cause. I can recall there was actually one lesson that got me so excited. I started to see all the dots connecting throughout the entirety of the scriptures. I do remember staying up late that night, talking about it with another friend from the class. And eventually, after numerous late nights like that, and after 6 months of growing, perceiving, and self-reflecting in this class, I finally entered Shincheonji. Offering service in Shincheonji for the first time was a positively overwhelming experience. I was so joyful and in awe by seeing everyone and realizing they all went through the same challenging journey that I had gone through. And it surely wasn't easy for anyone to be there. Yet here they were, carrying out a life of faith rooted in the same word of truth that I had also received. I was so moved by the tremendous love that I felt from them, who I had full confidence to call my new spiritual family, though I technically never met any of them before. I also felt so much gratitude for all the people who helped me and stuck by me along the way. But most of all, I was filled to the brim with God's amazing grace. And I was just so thankful that He orchestrated my footsteps and guided me to Shincheonji. It's been 2 years since that first day, and I can admit that it hasn't been an easy walk in the park as I've lived out my life of faith here since. But I can also say, with even more certainty, that each step has been worth every single struggle, and it's brought me closer towards my hope in the fulfillment of God's promises. And quite bluntly, anyone from the outside can look in and have many opinions about what they see. But these are my experiences, and I hope you can receive some insight from them. So, to conclude my story, the reason I came to Shincheonji and the reason why I am still here is because this is where I found God. And at the end of the day, isn't that what faith is all about?